Okay, this is for Nixon's growth plan from his LKES assessment. With me is Miss Laura Orr, who's Dalton Public Schools Chief Learning Officer, who's my sponsor. And we're going to go through growth areas and through the LKES standards where we see I can have growth and have more of a plan towards what I can do and what I'm needed to do in my role to have growth and maintain scores, high scores. So first one is LKES Standard 1, Instructional Leadership, and where we see I need some growth was monitors and evaluates the effectiveness of instructional programs. And so Miss Orr scored a 3, and we want to see if we can make that 3 a 4.
Okay. Nick, what I'd like to say first is that overall you have some very high scores in every category, which is fantastic. And as I reviewed our ratings and your ratings, it struck me that most of the areas that you're low in and that or you're lower in and where you see a lot of non-applicable, it's because we haven't given you the opportunity to work in those areas. And so as we talk through this, let's think about where we see a lower rating or where we see a non-applicable. How can we help you be able to work in those areas to build your capacity? So when I look at Standard 1, the monitoring and evaluates the effectiveness of instructional programs was an area where you had a 3. Most of your areas were 4, you had a 5, but you did have a 3 in that area. What's something you've been thinking about that you might do to be able to grow in that area?
Well, to kind of monitor the effectiveness of programs that we have in schools, I feel like that I can support principals and find out what actually is the software is going on in their schools, the programs that are going on in their schools, and how effective they are, and be able to give input from a technology digital side and get their input from themselves, their teachers, and from the students to see how effective it's been, and also evaluate any data that they have on these softwares. I feel like that's going to be important down the road. It also gives us some fiscal responsibility if we're using things that are really not effective or paying a large amount of money for them, and just to give an insight of that and see where principals at. And sometimes principals don't even know what programs they're actually using or what is even available as an alternative as well.
Right.
So I figure if I can work with principals and also with the media specialist and any digital technology person over there, and even with regular technology, then we can almost figure out what type of programs, and even with department heads, what type of programs they're wanting, and what they currently have in place that's working, why they're working, or why they're not working.
Well, and that would be really helpful to us because if we're spending federal money on instructional software, we are really accountable for being able to demonstrate, and with evidence, are these programs having an impact? And so we've got a lot of schools out there using instructional technology software, and so if we could figure out kind of a systematic way to collect data on that, help principals work on that, that would be fantastic. Let's take a look at the other area. You got a 2, we put you as a 2 in monitors teacher practice and student learning through regular classroom visits, and really this is all around the TEKS process, and you have not worked in that at all.
Right.
You haven't been in a position to do that. But one of the things that I think we would want you to do is probably go ahead and go through the initial TEKS training. The others of us in the content engagement department have done that. We did that prior to you coming to our department. But that just gives us a perspective of what principals are thinking about and working with their staff in the TEKS process. But also, it lets us step in to help with observations and the TEKS process. If something should come up, a principal should need to be out, or we need another eye on a particular staff member, whatever. So,
yeah, I think I can grow on that as well, if I can go through the TEKS training, and then possibly you guys can mentor me through the first, after I get finished with the first visits and things like that, because I want teachers to have my input, benefit from the input, because they know it's going to be part of their TEKS evaluation, or I can offer them advice on, well, you're doing a great job here. I would almost like coach them in a role too for when I go through classroom visits, just to be able to get a good sense of engagement in their room, and also knowing what to look for, because you can go in a classroom and, you know, TEKS says this and you're looking at this other stuff and giving input that may not even help them at all. So
might not be aligned.
Right. So I would like to grow in that as well. These other ones are, like you had said, were a lot non-applicable to my position.
Right, because if we look under school climate, there's a 2 here under develops the schools and implements a safe school plan. We really haven't been involved in that at all. And really until your role changes, you probably won't be involved in developing one of those plans. We really probably should have marked a not applicable there. So what other areas? Let's see.
I looked at an annual budget, because I know we go through in our content engagement, we're an umbrella of many sources of funds that go into different areas, and just learning from that. I'd be very interested in that. I've done budgets before, but a school budget is a little bit different than a law budget, because you have federal money, then you have your general fund, and then you have just different funds that sometimes that you can't.
You might have an e-splaz.
Right.
You might have.
You can pull this for this, and it's only for this, and you can't use it for this, and just not so much crunching the numbers, but knowing what you can do and why you can do that, or why you can't do that, or you've already used it for this and can't use it for that. And I know Title I was back in there, and just really creating a budget, but also understanding Title I, Title II, Title III, and how the funding goes there, and how we can help schools more. Because I know you spend a large majority of your time with that, especially that Title I budget, improving, and, you know, just for me to grow in that, getting a better understanding that of what that is and what it looks like, because it's a lot of different numbers, and then waiting on the state to tell you what your number is, and then trying to distribute out to all the other schools based on, I guess, size. And so I'd like to grow. Is there something that you see that that would help me in that?
Well, you've never built a budget at all, because you haven't been in an administrative position in a school. A lot of us, you know, that come over and work in different roles at the central office have dealt with school budgets first, and so you're kind of in a unique position that you didn't follow that typical path, but you already participate in our general budget process, and we have the pretty comprehensive process where folks come for their meetings throughout January. We have principals come in, we have department heads come in, we have coordinators come in, and everybody talks about their budget requests, and we work on that as a team. And so that really deals with our general budget. But as we talk about those general budgets, then we have to consider our federal budgets, because how we spend general budget money can affect how we spend federal budget money. And so I think we could build your capacity about the guidelines, particularly with federal budgets, to understand, and even those guidelines are changing, because Title I has just changed a little bit. But basically, the federal money is above and beyond the basic education, paying for the basic education that is required for students. And so we can help you understand that just by, you're welcome to attend training with us, federal trainings. Those are really exciting, but we can also just sit down with you as different people that deal, like I deal with Title I, Caroline deals with Title III, Craig deals with Title II, so that you could have a better understanding about how each of those budgets work and what they are set aside for.
Right.
What they're to address.
Being able to experience that, that's always a visual help to see all the things you guys have to do, and I can learn from that as well. So that's growth too. Other than that, I think you rated me higher than I rated myself.
Well, on standard 6, let's
Yeah,
go back to that
okay.
one, because teacher, staff, and evaluation, we talked about the TEKS over in
Right.
standard 1. We have really all non-applicable for you in standard 6, but that's because you really haven't been in a role
Right.
where you have participated in that. So as your role grows and evolves, and like we said, if you go through the initial certification for TEKS to be an evaluator, then I think some of this will come into clearer view for you. I do think it's important for you to understand the TEKS standards, like you said, because teachers are working with those, and as you are supporting them in their classrooms, and especially as they're having their professional growth plans, which will be required under TEKS soon, they're going to be wanting to support to be able to implement their plans. And especially if it's in the area of technology or instructional technology, they'll want your support with that.
Right, because I know a lot of their goals they have to set. A lot of them are, I want to get better with technology, whatever it is, and stuff like that. So they're setting their own goals there. So to understand that and support it would be great. So, okay.
Any other
I
questions?
think that's it. So thank you for your time, and
Okay.
we'll cut this off.